In the previous lesson, we discussed the broad areas that make news stories. Conflict to crime to politics to health to sports. We covered the broad areas and touched upon the 5 key characteristics of news. It has set the stage for today's lesson. After watching this lesson, students would come to know about various news values and the techniques to develop news knows. Life is full of events, acts and emotions. People are born and die every second on this wonderful platform. Life goes on the wheels of time marvelously and meticulously. Many times we remain spellbound to observe or experience the surprises the life leaves us. Human beings' curiosity to know the happenings around them is the basis of journalism. In a mission to inform, educate and entertain readers, viewers and listeners, it is the duty of journalists to capture the best and utmost important events of the day and present them in the form of news. Journalists need to deal with 2 limitations called time and space in this process while being truthful to the audience. This is not an easy task as it looks to be. How do journalists judge news? How do they select some information from a huge pile of information they gather? What is the criteria that an event make into the available news space? These questions attracted the attention of philosophers and academicians. News values is a set of criteria that journalists use to assess newsworthiness. American writer, reporter and political commentator famous for being among the first to introduce the concept of Cold War, Walter Lippmann made an attempt to answer these questions in 1920. In the book titled Liberty and the News, Lippmann narrated how information in various forms come to the newsroom. I quote him for better understanding of his vision of news values. I quote, "The news of the day as it reaches the newspaper office is an incredible medley of fact, propaganda, rumor, suspicion, clues, hopes and fears. And the task of selecting and ordering them that news is one of the truly sacred and priestly offices in the democracy. For the newspaper is in all literalness the Bible of democracy, the book out of which a people determine its conduct. It is the only serious book most people read. It is the only book they read every day. Now, the power to determine each day what shall seem important and what shall be neglected is a power unlike any that has been exercised since the Pope lost his hold on the secular mind." I unquote. This is Lippmann's observation. He examined the coverage of newspapers and saw many inaccuracies and other issues. He, along with Charles Merge, who later became the editor of the New York Times, did a study entitled A Test of the News, in which they stated that the New York Times coverage of the Bolshevik Revolution was biased and inaccurate. Both of them examined several thousands of articles published over a period of 3 years, beginning in March 1917 and ending in March 1920, before publishing a 42-page booklet in August 1920. The study concluded that the newspaper referred to events that had not taken place, atrocities that did not exist, and reported no fewer than 91 times that the Bolshevik regime was on the verge of collapse. It led to a serious discussion on the issue of news values. The first serious empirical study on this was carried out by Norwegian researchers Johan Galtung and Mary Ruse in 1960s. They examined news stories worldwide to determine their similarities, and their seminal study created the first news value list, which is still referred to today by journalists and communication professionals. News values have evolved over time, and there is much debate over whether journalists should consider other criteria to select newsworthy content. In a paper entitled "The Structure of Foreign News: The Presentation of the Congo, Cuba and Cyprus Crisis in 4 Norwegian Newspapers" in the Journal of Peace Research in March 1965, Gultung and his colleague put forward 12 factors describing events that together are used as defining newsworthiness. They are the significant contributing factors as to how the news is valued. The 12 most significant news values from the work of Gultung and Ruse are frequency, threshold, unambiguity, meaningfulness, consonance, unexpectedness, continuity, composition, reference to elite nations, elite persons, personalization and negativity. In an interview a couple of years ago, the father of peace journalism, Gultung, said that the newsworthiness from an international outlook broadly depends on 4 events. They are: number 1, the event involving high ranking countries; number 2, the event involving high ranking people; number 3, the event involving actors rather than processes and structures; and finally, the event should be negative. His observations holding good even today. You must have heard a loud debate over the increasing number of negative stories in media. Gultung's theme study was updated in 2001 by Tony Harkup and O'Neill by the way of a study of the British press. The findings of a content analysis of 3 major national newspapers in the UK were used to critically evaluate Gultung and Ruse's original criteria and to propose a contemporary set of news values. They found that celebrity news also gained popularity. Good news as well as bad news has a significant news value, they felt. Harkup and O'Neill updated their 2001 study in 2016. In the backdrop of the unprecedented growth of interactive media and citizen journalism and social media, the traditional idea of news value is getting changed, though the basic value remain unchanged. Professor Usha Raman, in her book titled "Writing for the Media," listed out 9 news values. Let us discuss all the 9 news values mentioned by the professional turned professor with relevant examples. Number 1, timeliness. News is something just happened. It is like fresh food. You should serve it hot. If you preserve, it gets stale and it fails to attract the audience. The latest policy decision or development makes news. People are interested to know the union government's latest move than the decisions taken by the previous governments. Yesterday's information is today's history. Timeliness addresses the question, why are you sharing this information now? People's perception of news is changing rapidly, mainly because of the timeliness. In the olden days, people had to wait for the newspaper to get new information for them. But now, thanks to the new information and communication technologies, an incident is getting reported on websites and social media platforms instantly. Radio stations are picking up them same in a jiffy. Simultaneously, television channels go for breaking news much before newspapers hit the stands next day morning. Not to lag behind in the race, newspapers are also having their own websites and YouTube channels to bring information to the readers as fast as possible. The time that takes for the information to reach the reader has been drastically cut short by the technology. The latest news gets top priority in the industry. Number 2, proximity. People are curious to know what happens around them and their locality and their immediate neighborhood. They are keen on knowing about their family members, friends and near and dear. It is a natural instinct. Proximity is of 2 kinds. One is geographical and the other is psychological. A brutal murder of advocate couple in a district in Telangana got the front page treatment by all media houses. Since they reside in the state capital, people in Hyderabad reacted and keenly watched the details of the gory incident. Advocates across the state reacted to the double murder because of the psychological proximity they had with the victims. Though all advocates don't know them personally, they reacted against the murders because of the same profession they served. Readers of the national capital may not show much interest on this aspect because of the geographical distance factor. If it is a national newspaper or national channel, the murder of the advocate couple may not get an in-depth coverage. However, the local newspapers, regional channels gave top priority in terms of display and number of related stories. The editor's definition of proximity depends on the primary market the newspaper serves, as mentioned by Professor Usha. Third, prominence. Readers feel connection with people of prominence. That is why famous people frequently make news. Those who possess wealth and those who enjoy power are the two categories of people that remain always in news. Celebrities like film stars, sports persons, business magnates and spiritual leaders also come under this category. Political leaders, especially who run the government, are also considered as prominent figures in the society. Every act or decision of these persons, good or bad, catches the public attention. Every bit of information or photograph of late British Princess Diana used to figure in news columns in Indian media too. Conflict. As we discussed in the previous lesson on what makes news, all kinds of conflicts have newsworthiness. Whatever that disturbs the normal course of action or usual flow of life can be termed as conflicts. War, crime, disaster, protest, communal tension and so on fall under this category. Tension between various groups, misconceptions among religious sections, people's fight against the governments, tussle among various groups in political parties and business rivalries are of importance for general public. Human interest. The basic instinct of human being is to know about the events that are with human element or human component. A successful heart surgery of a Pakistani girl in an Indian city creates natural interest among the readers. At a time when we witness tensions at the borders, a Pakistani family with an ailing kid coming to an Indian city and going back with smiles after thanking the local doctors for their wonderful gesture is an obvious heartwarming news. These stories fully focus on human angle by avoiding boring numbers and data. This falls under soft news category and journalists need to have extra skills to present such stories. Now, relevance or usefulness. What do I get out of this is a question that rings in the mind of the reader or the viewer. Even during the general conversations, unwittingly we pose this question to ourselves and adjust our attention in tune with the usefulness of the talk. Readers' attention levels depend on the usefulness of particular information for them, their family and the society. A government employee wishes to know every bit about the new pay commission and the revised promotion policy. An unemployed youngster is eager to know the details of employment notification, and a housemaker is concerned about the rates of gas cylinder and prices of vegetables. People are highly selective and choosy about information. They can't spend time on the information that is not useful for them. Of course, it may not be always useful in financial terms. Now, impact. The news value of impact stays very close to the previous news value of relevance or usefulness. As Professor Usha observes, impact is more about the psychological, social, cultural or economic effect that a development or an event might have on the audience, while usefulness has to do with practical value. Some news have direct impact while others have indirect consequences. Entire budget may have an impact on the finance of the families. Government's decision to give COVID-19 vaccine for every citizen for free has an impact on the whole nation. Though the vaccine would come to the individual at a later stage, he or she would be interested in getting the details of the particular news because of the impact factor. Now, unusualness or oddity. As usefulness makes news, unusualness or oddity also grab the audience attention. A dead man coming back to life, an idol consuming milk, a centurion becoming a mother are the incidents of unusual nature. They become box items and offbeat stories in newspapers. Anything that happens against the normal course comes under this particular category. Now the magnitude. In simple terms, an impact with a massive scale can be defined as magnitude. The devastation created by the newest virus variant COVID-19 is the best example to discuss this element. The entire world coming to a standstill with countries getting shut down for months together amidst uncertainty and fear indicates the magnitude of the issue. That is the reason COVID related every piece of information becomes a news item. Natural disasters like floods, tsunami and earthquakes and man-made disasters like 9/11 attack on Twin Towers in US are some of the examples of this category. The news with the news value of magnitude generally have an impact on the psyche of the nation, and people remember them for a long and they remain as watersheds in the history. It is difficult to forget about earthquake in Latur in Maharashtra and the gas tragedy in Bhopal in Madhya Pradesh due to the magnitude news value. Dear students, we have discussed the 9 key news values with examples. Having dealt it in detail, we should be aware that these news values keep on changing with time. Some professionals added some more elements such as mystery, unexpectedness and so on to this list. Technology and management patterns also impacted this set of rules. Unfortunately, there is no barometer or a physical apparatus to finalize the news value of the stories we choose to bring to the audience. Journalists need to decide them then and there to be in the race. News stories don't have one news value. The more news values, the more priority. Depending on the number of news values, editors select it page 1. I am sharing 2 latest news bits as part of a simple exercise. I suggest you to read them and list out the news values they have. The first story was published by Khalij Times and the title of the story is Hindi words add masala to English lexicon. Here goes the story. Oxford Languages naming Atmanirbharata or self-reliance as the Hindi word of the year for 2020 forcefully brings home the message that Hindi and Urdu have been enriching the English language with colorful and catchy words long after the British left Indian shores. You are surprised? Acha. How about this? The Oxford English Dictionary inducted into its hallowed pages as many as 70 Hindi words in 1 year alone in 2017, adding to the 900 existing words identified as distinctive to Indian English. Many of those words were added because Indian speech has a highly specific vocabulary with no direct equivalents in English, according to Oxford English Dictionary. Call it the growing influence of the Indian diaspora, the rising popularity of Bollywood films, or the legacy of the British Empire. Many Hindi words are now easily understood and used by foreigners and somehow become such an integral part of the English language that very few know they came from Hindi. During the Raj, the British Sahibs were both amused and appalled by the sight of thugs, dacoits and fakirs as they sipped through their chai in the verandas of their bungalows, cooled by a pankha. Incidentally, this sentence contains as many as 9 Hindi words, now all part of the English dictionary. Raj, of course, refers to the British rule of the Indian subcontinent. Sahib is master. Thug is from Hindi thang, thief or swindler. Dacoit from Hindi daku. And fakir, a religious person. Cha or chai is tea. Varanda from Hindi is barmada. Bungalow from Hindi word bangla used to describe as house constructed in Bengali style. And pankha, Hindi pankha means a ceiling fan. The first news story ends here. Now the second news bit published by the Hindu newspaper. The title of the bit is Metro Man Sridharan set to join BJP, may contest pool. Here is the story. E. Sridharan, principal advisor to the Delhi Metro Rail Corporation and popularly known as Metro Man, is all set to join the BJP. Kerala State BJP President K. Surendran said in Kozhikode on Thursday, February 18, 2021, that Mr. Sridharan would officially join the party during the inauguration of the statewide Vijay Yatra from Kesargod on February 21st. The party had already requested him to contest the polls, Mr. Surendran added. Mr. Sridharan, age 88, said his approach to politics would be different and that he was open to contesting the coming assembly elections if the party wanted. He was quoted like this: "Since I have settled down in Kerala, I have seen different governments, and the United Democratic Front and the Left Democratic Front have not been able to do anything substantial for the people over the years. Projects are delayed and corruption is rampant. Only parties leading the coalition fronts had benefited. There is no rapport with the union government, and the state is the ultimate loser, and the political parties are the gainers. A BJP government can alter this scenario," he said. Mr. Sridharan admits that he was a sympathizer of the BJP since Narendra Modi became the Prime Minister. Sridharan's bit ends here. I would suggest you students to list out the news value of these two news bits and discuss with your friends. To master the art of sensing news values, a constant dissection of news would be of great help. How to develop news nose? Journalists come across a heap of information every day and every hour. The real challenge at hand is to sense the most important information that deserves to take news shape. As I told you, there is no apparatus to judge this. Journalists need to develop this skill with practice. Sniffer dogs sniff out drugs and explosives, They are trained to do so. Similarly, journalists automatically develop the skill of sensing news over a period of time. That is called news nose. It is not so easy to acquire this important quality. The prerequisites to have a natural news nose are: 1. Fire in the belly; 2. Passion for journalism; 3. Heart for audience; 4. Innovative outlook; 5. Alert mind; 6. Eye for details; 7. Reading and watching habit; and 8. Interest in getting feedback. I wish to emphasize on the 7th point, that is about reading and watching. Journalists should read as many news items as possible and watch as many television channels as possible. Constant touch with the news world will develop your news nose to make a mark in the field of journalism. Many journalists confess that they cannot find time to read due to busy schedules, but reading of at least 3 newspapers and making a quick comparison of news priorities of different newspapers will be very useful. As you train your brain to grasp the elements of news values with the help of the feedback you get from your audience, you will automatically develop the much needed news nose to excel in the profession. In this lesson, we discussed the attempts made to determine news values in journalism, starting from Lippmann's first analysis to Galton's empirical research. News values have come a long way. News values help journalists find out the newsworthiness of the information they gather or they come across. We also dealt with the skills that are needed to develop news nose. We have also analyzed 2 examples to list out the news values.